One new piece of information we learned is related to former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. When the FBI sought permission to run surveillance on Page, they omitted the fact he had previously worked as a CIA asset. Republican Senator Ted Cruz criticized that mistake today. Let's listen.
The number two major error in the applications was omitting Carter Page's prior relationship. Now, we now have evidence that Carter Page functioned as a source for a United States intelligence agency. That's a pretty darn important fact. If you're telling the FISA court, hey, the fact that this guy Carter Page, who I don't know this guy Carter Page, but the fact that he's talking to Russians, really suspicious. Well, the fact that he's serving as a source for U.S. intelligence agents is pretty darn relevant to why he's talking to Russians, because we have lots of sources that are talking to bad guys. And when you don't tell the court that, you're deceiving the court.
Earlier, I spoke to CBS News investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge, who's been following this story.
Well, Carter Page was a one-time advisor to the Trump campaign, and he's also an energy consultant, and he's done a lot of work in Russia and specifically with Russian officials. He was the subject of the surveillance warrant in October 2016, and then there were 3 subsequent renewals from the National Security Court, and it extended the surveillance of Carter Page. So that includes the collection of his electronic communications through until the late summer, early fall of 2017. So nearly a year-long span. And when they do these renewals, the FBI, they need to tell the court whether they've uncovered new evidence that either supports probable cause to continue the surveillance or it undercuts probable cause. And what we learned for the first time in pretty dramatic detail today is that there was confirmation from the CIA that it had a relationship to gather information from Carter Page, so to help the U.S. government with their strategy on Russia. But an FBI lawyer had this email, forwarded the email to a supervisor, and inserted into the email that Page was, quote, not a source. So there was a material change to the email and what it meant. It went from Carter Page helping the U.S. government to Carter Page having no relationship with the U.S. government. And Senator Cruz and others were making the point that this was important information for the National Security Court to weigh when they were extending the surveillance into Carter Page.
So, Catherine, is the individual accused of omitting that fact or changing that fact in the email likely to face any legal or criminal consequences?
Well, we've been reporting here at CBS News over the last week through our contacts that an FBI lawyer is under criminal investigation for allegedly falsifying a record that was related to the FISA application. And based on what we heard today, I think it's safe to make that connection that it is related to the Carter Page document. And Horowitz said so much today in the public hearing.
So, Catherine, we heard a lot of accusations or, criticism of the FISA process, and it seems as if lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are eager to see some reforms here. Civil libertarians basically had their day, and we know that there are civil libertarians among Democrats and Republicans. So remind us why the FISA process was given sort of such unfettered power, because it's very recent. It's all post 9/11, if I'm correct on that, and why there's such a strong call to tamp that down a little bit now.
Well, I think this is the part of the story that raises it above the politics and the 2016 election cycle to the bigger picture over why Americans should really care about what happened with the National Security Court. I've been covering this space for nearly 2 decades after 9/11, and this ability for the FBI to gather intelligence domestically, so inside the United States, including the targeting of American citizens, was created so that they could disrupt domestic terrorism plots and also bust up spy rings, and the FBI was given these extraordinary and intrusive powers to gather intelligence. But the catch is that they had to go to the National Security Court, and there was a very high threshold. They would make an application, a probable cause request to the court, but it was incumbent upon the government, because it's an ex parte, so one-party system, that they had to provide evidence that supported the warrant application, but they also had to provide evidence that undercut the application. classification. And what IG Horowitz is faulting the FBI for doing is a key series of omissions that would have undercut the case for probable cause with Carter Page. And the material alteration of the CIA email is just one of those instances.
All right, Catherine, thank you so much.